Hello, this is Teresa and I'm back with another video tutorial. This time I'll be showing you how to create a couple of sashes, one which is pretty basic and one that's a little more involved. The first one I'm doing is going to be an adult sized sash. I'm just using some basic ribbon that's about 2.5 inches wide. Sashes are typically anywhere, I think, from 3 to 4 inches wide, but like I said, this one's going to be simple. So I'm going to cut a length of 2 yards for the adult length banner sash. And once I cut it off, then I'll have the basic part of that started before I start creating the letters that I'm going to add to the sash to decorate it. So basically the way that these work is you have that loop up at the top and then you cross over the ends of it and you attach it in some manner. I chose to use some strong double-sided adhesive. If you wanted to sew this to make it more permanent, you could certainly do that. I'm just going for something that's easy because this is just going to be used for a birthday party for one of my older friends. And I'm going to be using this Uppercase Die Letter Set. This is from Altenew. They also have a lowercase die set that is the same basic font, and I'll be using that for the other sash that I'm creating in this video. I will have to use a couple of letters. I'll have to use the E, the H, and the L in order to spell out over the hill. I will also put all the letters, as at first I had them kind of spaced out, and then I thought better of it and realized that there was no real need to space them out that way, and then I started putting them closer together before running them through my die cut machine. So I'm putting them as close together as they can be without overlapping each other, and I'll run it through the die cut machine and cut the extra letters after the first pass. So now that I have all the letters created, I'm using my Create a Sticker Xyron machine, and I was going to put adhesive on the back of all the letters, and that worked up to a point. Unfortunately, I was at the very end of my roll of tape, so this was not as successful as I hoped, but I'm sure if I had had a full roll of tape, then I wouldn't have run into the problem that you're going to see, because all of a sudden it will not turn anymore. I did manage to get it to force it to keep going to a certain point, and then I realized it just wasn't going to go anymore, and then I had to find an alternate means to glue on a few of the letters. So I will cut off the part that I can use. I had to die cut a few letters again in order to be able to finish my project. So now I'm about to apply the letters I could salvage. So I'm starting with the word that's in the center, which is the. I'm putting it in the center of the side of the ribbon that will be facing front when it is being worn. And I do that so that it makes it easier to line up the letters on either side, or words on either side, and not be too far going in one direction or the other. As you can see, this adhesive is very easy to peel the letters off and place them on the ribbon. You do have a little bit of time to remove and move them over if they're not exactly where you want them the first time. And once you get them on there and press them down, they stay down pretty good. So now that I'm finished with this, the first word, I'm going to work on the last word, which is hill. And these will be the last couple of letters that I put down that I was able to get out of the Xyron machine until I had to resort to another method to apply adhesive to a couple of letters. So on the I, I'm using some double-sided adhesive tape, just some standard adhesive tape. The important thing is to make sure you cover the entire back side of it with the adhesive before placing it on to the ribbon. So I pull off the L from the Xyron sheet that was salvageable, and then I take the remaining L and I just put double-sided adhesive on the back of it, just like I did with the I. And so now I have the lettering complete for this. And I'm going to notch and cut a fishtail into the end of each of my ribbons. So that way they look a little more decorative than if they were just left flat. So you just cut into the center of the ribbon, then come from each edge and cut in towards the center of that, and it helps you get a nice even fishtail. Now I'm taking that piece of the Silver Starstruck foiled paper and I'm scoring it at every 1/4 inch mark because I'm going to create a couple of decorations to add to this. So I did that so it would be easy to identify where to cut them into strips, and I've divided the strips that I cut into a couple of groups, and I'm arranging them in this manner so that when I staple the middle or the center part of them together, that they'll be fanned out like this. Because the next thing I'm going to do is curl every one of those strips from the outside towards the inside, and some I will twirl towards the opposite direction. I won't sit here and make you watch me do this to every single one. My best advice for this is to make sure that you roll it in as tightly as possible and then hold on to the curl and just pull the pencil or whatever object you're using to roll these strips out. And after you're done with this and attach it to the ribbon, you can certainly kind of pull it apart like I'm doing at the moment to make it look a little bit better and not kind of all bunched up. So here's the first one I created, and I'm going to staple that onto the ribbon, and I'm going to staple it going the opposite way from the staple that's in the center of the decoration, if that makes sense. I don't want the staple to staple in the exact same place because that wouldn't work. So going across it in the perpendicular direction works really well. And I'm using the pencil again in case I have to recurl some of the strips there at the end. And voila, I have my first sash ready to go. And now I'm going to make a sash that is sized for a child. And I've looked up some of the measurements that I could see on commercially sold sashes, and it seemed like the average length is 44 inches. And I was trying to make this 44 inches. I ended up a couple inches short because my silver ribbon, that was all I had. So I decided to go ahead and go for it, even though it would be a little bit shorter than the 44 inches overall. And I used my double-sided adhesive tape on the back side of the ribbon, so I'm going to go down one side and then I'll do the very same thing going down the other side. And I have folded some tulle with some that's hot pink and has some, I don't know, sequin, almost like sequin decorations on it. And I folded it in half because the original length was pretty wide. I want to say it was about 5 inches overall. So I folded it in half, and at this point I was going to see if I could press down the adhesive that's on the back side of the silver ribbon and have it hold. It kind of worked, but I did have to add some staples to it in order to make sure that it stayed in place. There were a couple of spots that I could immediately tell were not going to stick down, and I attempted to go back with a double-sided adhesive and add a little bit more in those places. but eventually I decided to come back and staple it instead to make it stay where I wanted it to. Now you may have noticed that before I started stapling, I changed to some hot pink staples. This particular tiny stapler is meant for crafts, so you can buy a variety of different colors to match your project. And now I have some Starstruck lavender foil, and I'm going to show you another way that you could set things up to apply adhesive to the back of the foil first, and I'm using a score tape sheet to do this. So this is just another option in addition to the ones I've shown you. I peeled back the layer that covers one side of it, and I'm just pressing the foil down into it as far as it will go. Then I'm going to cut off the end of the adhesive sheet because that could still be used on another project. And so now I have that ready to go. And similar to what I did with the first project is I'm going to pick out the letters that I need to spell out princess. And this time I'm using the lowercase die alphabet set from Altenew. And I'll start putting the letters onto the paper, and I'll use some tape to keep them in place. And again, I'm putting them as close together as possible without overlapping so that I can maximize the foil paper. And now I have my letters placed where I want them to go onto this sash, and I'll start peeling off the backside of the score tape from each of the letters and place it down. I'll start at the bottom and just go up, and I won't make you sit through watching me attach in each and every one of them. So now that the letters are adhered to my sash, I'm going to add a little further decoration to it. And you may have seen a past video of mine where I created some cupcake liners and decorations, and I used some of these unicorn stickers on that project. So actually this sash would match very well with that previous project. I'll put a link up at the top so you can see what video that is if you'd like to go back and watch that video. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video with me today, and I'll put a couple of links up here so you can find other videos that may interest you. And I'll see you next time.